Hello and welcome to the round so far, brought to you by AAMI. I'm Xander McGuire and this is Kate McCarthy. Well, in the pre-season, a few had have said that the best and arguably one of the most important games of the season early would be between Gold Coast and Adelaide in the early slot on a Saturday afternoon. You would have been called crazy. But what a game it was that unfolded up on the Gold Coast today, and there was high drama too, Kate McCarthy.
Yeah, there was. The big story is the last play, or one of the last plays of the game. Adelaide going inside their forward 50. You can see a point the difference. Rankin has a chance to take the mark, probably does everything he could to take the mark, and then gets tackled while trying to take the mark without the footy. So I think either way that you look at it, it's either a free kick to the Crows or it's a mark to the Crows. And I'm not saying that he's sort of lining up to have a shot on goal and could have kicked it, but he's definitely there. He's probably good enough to make it a point at least, and that changes a lot of the context of the game. A
sore point for the Crows, who had the opportunity to go 4-0 from that. Matthew Nicks was asked about it, unsurprisingly, straight away after the game, and he agreed with Kate.
You know, you get to the end of the game and we've given ourselves a chance, and you need every bit of luck in that moment. That last minute and a half, we clearly didn't get things going our way.
Do you think Ranks marked it?
Look, my version of it is I think if he didn't mark it, he's tackled in a marking contest. But that's, again, we made so many mistakes throughout the game, things happen.
As Nick says, there were plenty of opportunities in that fourth quarter, and a lot of them did go the Crows' way. They were incredible, led by the three key forwards in Riley Thilthorpe, Tex Walker and Darcy Fogarty. What did you make of what was a crucial final term?
Oh, it was a huge game. I think we saw some really good performances from both teams, and I like what Matty Nicks said. He said we had the opportunities, we made mistakes, understanding that there were mistakes made probably by the umpire as well in that last term, but they had the opportunity. But Gold Coast, I was impressed with their ability to win the game. We've seen them really dominate through the midfield, dominate through clearances. They were actually dominated by the Crows through clearance and still good enough to come out 1 point winners. So I thought it was a fantastic match. We probably learnt a lot about both teams, but I don't think we'd be really, if you're either fans, I don't think you're disappointed with your team's performance at all. Obviously, Gold Coast Suns flying high. They got the 1 point win and they're really going well, looking towards their first finals series ever in their club's history. And Adelaide, I don't think they disappointed any of their fans going down narrowly.
Well, one man that's got a lot of fans this season so far has been Riley Thilthorpe. Champion Data has him as the #1 player in the game post round 21 last year. And he got himself in a bit of an interesting situation with McAndrew.
Yeah, well, this was fiery, really. This is post-siren. So this is what happened after the siren went. And we're going to have a little look here at the build-up to it. So this is what happened. This is what played out. But this is how we got there. So it was late in the fourth term. This is still when there's a point the difference. So Thilthorpe gives away a free kick and McAndrew comes from a long way away to tell him about it. And this is a player that's played on him. He played on Tex Walker, he played on Fogarty all throughout the game, and they combined for 12 goals. So it's not like Thilthorpe had a quiet game. He kicked 5 himself. This is late in the fourth as well, and probably puts a little bit of mayo on that. Copped a little sort of scrape to the head, but stays down for a bit. And then McAndrew, again, over to tell him all about it. So the two of them, this is probably in the space of 2 minutes too, just really going at each other. He's going out of his way, McAndrew, to find Riley Thilthorpe, which is something that is very brave considering the size of Riley Thilthorpe.
Yep.
But then this is post-siren. As soon as the siren goes, still going at it. And then the cheeky thumbs up in the face. But I don't know. I like it. I like it for the theatre. We love building these things up in football media, don't we, Xander? But I don't know, McAndrew, I don't think he had the best of games, so I'd like to see the winner a little bit more humble in winning, and Thilthorpe, I thought, handled it pretty well, to be honest.
Well, plenty of feeling in that one, which was hyper-competitive. Not so much the case for the Saturday night game between North Melbourne and Sydney. Probably ended the way that most would have expected, with Sydney cruising into a comfortable victory, going 2-2. Kate, what was your thoughts? I mean, North Melbourne fans, would they be a bit disappointed? Chad Warner giving a little bit to some former teammates there before the game.
Well, I think the initial thoughts is Chad Warner's going to cop a fine if the precedent set from Harley Reid flipping the bird was anything to show for it. But a couple of ex-teammates, so Costanti and Parker, a little bit of fire in it as well. This is some big defensive pressure, and Costanti lined him up, was ready to go on it as well.
Serious elbow there, which will be looked at by the MRO. How are you feeling as a North Melbourne fan tonight? Are you disappointed in the performance?
I think you're probably expecting them to show a little bit more. I think North Melbourne now, they should be past the point where they're conceding 10 goals to 3 post half time against a Sydney Swans team who will look into their injuries in a little bit, but they're undermanned at the moment. They're probably not hitting their straps the way that they'd like to, considering they played in the Premiership last year. But I think just 10 goals to 3, that's disappointing if you're a North fan. You're probably walking away from Marvel Stadium hoping that they showed a little bit more than that.
Well, you say they're undermanned, and one man that stepped up in a massive way early this year has been Riley Bice.
Yeah, my Saturday King. I loved everything that he's produced. I just love mature age recruits. I think what they can add to teams straight away, they're ready-made, they're ready to go. He had 26 disposals, 15 marks and 7 score involvements. He was playing off the half-back, but if you watch these highlights, he's playing all over the ground. He's pushing really far back to help his defence, taking intercept marks like that, and then also delivering the ball on a platter inside forward 50. So he's been a real shining light. I love what he's added, and I also love the faith of these clubs to recruit mature age draftees and add them into the squad straight away, and you can see that you can reap the rewards from having them and having them ready to go, having played a lot of VFL footy.
Well, you mentioned that Sydney are undermanned, and it doesn't look like the reinforcements are coming back anytime soon. They've got Collingwood in Gatherand coming up, Port Adelaide, and then following that, they've got a few other tough clashes against Gold Coast and GWS. Run us through the injury list in terms of what they're missing on field with these guys, and again, how they're going to cover these gaps in the coming weeks still.
Oh, well, I think the big one, obviously, the latest injury to pop up was Tom Papley during the week with the heel, and there's just, I think the thing to note with this is so many of them are such long-term injuries to their stars. So Errol Goulden, round 15, which I think is still a little bit of a question mark around as well. So there's just really long-term injuries. The way that they've been able to, they're 2-2 at the moment. They're not playing their best football, but it's a question around they can't wait for these guys to come back because a lot of them are going to be out for a large chunk of the year. So players like Riley Bice are having the opportunity to step up. They need to keep finding those opportunities through other players. So, yeah, I think obviously every team has injuries, but I think they need to move forward and find who can fill these gaps because, as we saw, they're a long time out of the game at the moment.
Massive setback for Callum Mills there as well through the week with that plantar fasciitis tear. Let's have a look at one of the big stories through the week, which is obviously that the Guns were snuck into the MCG on Thursday night. And fans, well, they've felt the effects of that with massive security lines. Take a look at that at the MCG, banked all the way up to Jolimont Station. Unfortunate, but a necessary measure after what was almost a disaster on Thursday night. Yeah,
definitely a necessary measure. You probably knew, well, I knew going to the ground today that there was going to be a large sort of focus on security after what happened on Thursday night, and you probably think rightfully so, but probably needs to be a happy medium between those two, taking the necessary sort of precautions, but that's a long line for a fan trying to enter a ground.
And Andrew Dillon, of course, issuing lifetime bans to those two fans that brought the firearms into the ground, and deservedly so, you'd probably say. Let's have a look at another one of the games from today, Richmond and Brisbane. Another one that probably went the way that you'd expect. Sam Lawler was exceptional with 2 goals, 24 disposals. Lockie Neal led the way with 42 touches, but it was another youngster that caught your eye today.
Yeah, it was Jasper Fletcher, and the reason I just want to highlight him, I'm not standing here saying he was the best on ground by any means, but I just really like what they've been able to do here. So Jasper Fletcher in the 2024 Premiership winning season, 90% of 2024 he spent on the wing. So he was a full-time winger basically, didn't really play a whole lot of other time on the ground. This season, from round 1, he's played 80% in defence, and that's where he stayed today. He played a lot of his time off half-back, and his ability to also be able to deliver the ball inside forward 50, he's classy with the ball, he uses it well, but he's also a good defender one-on-one. We saw some of those clips with his closing speed. So I just like what they've been able to do at Brisbane. You could probably be happy that he played on the wing, he plays a good role on the wing. They've looked for something else, tried to find someone that can use the ball as well as Dane Zorko off half-back, and I think they've found one with Jasper Fletcher, and I think that's a really nice move. But one that they haven't need to find is Will Ashcroft. His goal here, he kicked goal of the year in 2023. This surely has to be a nomination for it. You sort of look here, and when I did this game at the G, and sort of at first look, you think that's a fluke. He's just sort of had an errant shot. He hasn't hit the right part of the ball. Have a look here. He's scanning. He's looking. He sees there's no other options at the goal square's free, and then he kicks an end on end, holding that like a drop punt, drills it through, end on end, and that goes through for a goal. That's a fantastic finish from a youngster that just seems to be getting better and better. It's
fascinating. He almost changes tact at the last second there to go to that dribble kick there. Amazing stuff from Will Ashcroft. And 0-4 for the Demons puts Simon Goodwin under immense pressure. And you can just see the frustration from the players as well. This is not where they thought they were going to be 4 rounds into the season. Christian Petrarca, who's been frustrated with the club so much in the off-season, just letting it all out. Where do the D's sit right now? Is it time that we sort of let go of our perception of them from 2021? Do we look at them as a side that finished 14th last year and perhaps isn't up to making a finals run, even though the key cogs of that premiership side are still well and truly firing in there?
Yeah, I think that's the thing that's been the real downfall. You sort of look at their team and you look at the key cogs to it, and they're all still playing. They're all still out there. Oliver, Petrarca, Gawn. Lever obviously hasn't played so far this season, but May as well. They've still got that key cogs that should be performing better, you'd think. The reality is, though, they've lost 14 of their past 19 games. So that to start with, their contested possession and their clearance has really declined over the past 3 seasons. It's something that they sort of made their one wood that has really declined and quite rapidly. And another player that I just want to sort of highlight, Trent Rivers. He went into the midfield late last year. He was playing 80% game time in the midfield for the last 10 rounds. So far this season, he's played in defence for all 3 games, 80% defence. He was a player that last year Melbourne fans would have been really, really excited about moving into 2025, yet they haven't seen him really play any minutes in the midfield. And I think for me, that's a trigger that needs to be pulled. Get him back through there. We saw the signs of it last year. Allow him to spend that time through there again and give you a different look.
I was in the Demons rooms post-match and Simon Goodwin pulled the players straight into a meeting. He said that he was trying to get a message to them through the week with some brutally honest conversations, and this is what he said the message was post-match.
And the message is stay calm. Like, we're 4 weeks in, stay calm but get urgent, and that's been the message. We've got work to do, get urgent with that work, but stay calm and know that things can turn pretty quick.
Do you think they're staying calm?
Well, I think they're staying a bit too calm, really. There's not a whole lot of pressure out there at times. I think we'll get into the marks that were taken by Geelong a little bit later, but yeah, the ability for them, I'm not sure how you stay calm but get urgent at the same time. I'm not sure if they're a little bit counterintuitive of each other. What do you think, Xander?
I'm not sure. I'm going to leave it to Simon Goodwin, the Premiership coach, to sort that out through the week. I'm putting my hands in the air, pleading the fifth.
Get off the fence.
Patrick Dangerfield was amazing, though, down forward, kicking 3 goals, I think it was, through the match. Has he reinvented himself? Has he put a few years on his career, or is this just part of his role that he's always played as the superstar he is?
No, definitely it's been a tactic of theirs that he was going to play a lot more time forward half this year. They wanted to, I guess, keep him away from those real explosive efforts through the midfield. Obviously, a number of soft tissue injuries last year. So I love it. I think his ability, because he's so powerful and he's really good overhead as well for a player that's generally undersized as a key forward. But his ability to match it with his opponent, because to be able to sort of out-muscle or outwork him, you have to be pretty strong, but you can't go with him by foot. We saw him leading up there, getting kicks. Really nice delivery as well from his midfielders. But yeah, I love the reinvention of his game, playing him more forward, because you're going to get more out of him ultimately.
Christian Petrarca also used in a similar role. I think he had 21 touches, 2 goals, playing 62% time in the forward line there. So an emerging trend across the teams. You spoke about the Geelong marks. Talk us through the impact that had and how bad it was in terms of Melbourne's defence across the ground.
Yeah, well, let's just have a look here at the amount of marks that are largely uncontested throughout this whole passage of play. And we could have picked out about sort of 30 or 40 of these during the game, but 165 marks total to Geelong. That is an astounding number. There's only been 11 games in the history of AFL VFL where a team has actually taken more marks than that. The worst part, 148 of those were uncontested. So it just allowed their ability to move the ball however they wanted. They know how to play that ground really well. Yes, they took what Melbourne gave them, and yes, ultimately it kept the ball out of their hands. So time in possession, they had the ball for 15 minutes more than Melbourne in that entire game. I don't know how you compete with a team when they have the ball for 15 more minutes in a game of football.
A couple of interesting notes from the MRO from that game as well. We'll start with Bailey Fritsch, who was fined for tunnelling Tom Stewart. What's your take on this situation?
I think for me, yes, it's a fine. It's deserved of a fine, but I think the thing that you look at here as we sort of watch the replay of it, I think there's ways that Bailey Fritsch doesn't actually even make contact with Tom Stewart there. He's clearly sort of gone through him with his shoulder. So I just think that's something you want to stamp out of the game. And then this one, Ollie Dempsey has been fined for staging. And I think our reaction to it probably says that it's a valid fine. I think
he already clunked it. He didn't need to do it.
I think the arm does sort of come back through on the second grab, but there was absolutely no need to probably put the performance that he did on it. So I think that's a fair fine. I'm happy with them to start fining players for staging, especially when there's so much emphasis around concussion and protecting the head. It makes the umpire's job so much harder when players are sort of going to throw themselves around like that when they potentially get a small scratch to the cheek.
Let's rewind back to Thursday night, and what a night it was at the MCG. 82,000 people there to watch the oldest and biggest rivalry in Australian football. Write another storied chapter into it. Carlton, they go 0-4. What did you make of how this game was decided, particularly in the third quarter?
Yeah, I think sort of a lot of the sting went out of the game as the third quarter played out, because Collingwood were just dominant through that third term. Lachie Schultz was dominant himself in that third term, but yeah, at the ground, you look at the scores late in the fourth, and it was only 17 points the margin, but it just felt like it was an unassailable lead, really, from Carlton, even though that's 3 kicks. But their ability to chain the ball in their front half, we're going to look at some of their ball movement in a minute, but it's been pretty poor. They've been able to generate the turnover, but then just struggling to score going back at teams. A
great moment for Lachie Schultz to be named best on ground in that game as well, given how much scrutiny has come his way as a result of what Collingwood had to give up to get him. But he's been fantastic that season and culminating with that effort. Let's have a look at the Blues, though. We spoke about their second half fade-outs last week, and it just got worse again. That third quarter was where the game was won and lost. They just run out of legs.
Yeah, and I think the thing that's been made about this, we've all talked about it. Everyone in the media has talked about the Blues fade-outs in the second half. They've led every single game so far this season up until halftime, and they've lost every single second half. And I would think that as a team, you'd probably identify that. Yep. You'd speak at halftime, you get the opportunity to go into the rooms, you'd speak about it, and you'd really rally together and come out in the third term, and the first few opportunities you get, you're going to make a mark on the game. Well, it went the other way. Collingwood won the first 6 centre clearances of the game, of the third term, and had the first 7 inside 50s before Carlton went inside 50 once. It just, to me, looks like they're not responding to what's actually being said to them, whether it's in the rooms or whether they're not talking about it. There needs to be something that just puts a real fire in their belly for the second half, because it was a pretty poor showing in the third term.
So your view is that it's more of a mental thing than a physical thing?
Well, I think you can play the mental role on it. You can really fire up the team so they dial in, because it's clearly an issue now. It's 4 weeks in a row. It's something that was an issue before it became 4 weeks in a row. So if I was the coaching staff, I would be really addressing that and saying, look, we're going out there, we're in the lead at the moment, we need to rally together. Any opportunity you have to win the moment in the third term early, that sets the precedent for us as a team. Let's go out there and do that, and hopefully you see a response.
Another thing that you've identified is that Carlton are actually creating a lot of opportunities for themselves, but they just can't capitalise.
Yeah, so looking at round 0 to 3, so front half or forward half intercepts, it's what you want to do in a game of football. They are first in the league, or were, from round 0 to 3. Their front half intercepts generating scores, 14th in the comp. Their efficiency, 18th in the comp. So let's have a look on Thursday night. Front half intercepts first half, they had 14 of them, and they generated 1 goal out of it. Here's one from early in the game. So that's a turnover there, a kick back into the corridor. Curnow has it here. So what we're going to do is, ahead of the ball, they have 3 forwards in really good position. Fogarty there, as a forward, you want to re-engage Howe here. You want to tick back up. You want to take the ground away and tick back up. To allow you the time to do that, though, Curnow needs to take some time at the top of his mark. You need to be able to have the time to reset as a forward. De Koning here, another really good grab, front half intercept. Brodie Kemp at the top of the screen there is completely on his own. So Darcy Moore here is his direct opponent. De Koning's looking inboard, so Moore doesn't really think he has to engage too much. He starts to look over and identifies Kemp. Then he watches the cues of the kicker go back towards the middle. Obviously, the kick is smothered to start with, but as Tom De Koning, people talking about him being the best ruck in the competition, you have to be able to kick that back through. And then their ability to play on when it's not there. They need some composure. McGovern here puts himself under so much pressure that the option, who's Zach Williams, he can't kick it to him anyway because of the source pressure from McCreary, bombs it in long, ends up being a free kick to Collingwood. And in all 3 of those clips, especially the first one, if you generate a turnover like that in the corridor, when you have 3 players out in your forward 50, you need to score points from it. You need to score a goal from it. And AFL standard is kicking goals from that part of the field. And Carlton just at the moment, no composure and also no connection inside their forward half.
What would provide a little bit of relief in that Carlton forward line in terms of entries is Harry McGuire returning. And he made a return to football in the VFL tonight playing against Southport. It was a bit of a dog of a night for Carlton forwards, given how well that Southport juggernaut did go. This is Harry McGuire's first goal of 2 on the night. He had his kicking boots on, which is obviously, a point that people like to make with him. So kick that goal, all the boys get to him. Elijah Holland's in that shot as well, who made his return to the VFL too with 18 disposals. How much of a difference do those guys make to that Carlton side if they can get back into it? Yeah,
well, I think Elijah Holland's his ability to inject some speed, and then also Harry McGuire, so there's a little bit less focus, both defensively but also from Carlton themselves on Charlie Curnow. open up the eyes, look for a few different targets rather than bombing it long to the targets that are sitting there at the moment in Curnow.
The big headline as well out of that game, Dan Houston given a 2-match ban by the MRO. Collingwood are expected to make a decision on that sometime around Sunday or Monday morning, so we'll wait and see through the day to see how that unfolds. Well, that's been the round so far. Let's have a look ahead to the games on Sunday, and we're set for a few crackers as well. GWS against West Coast on the early slot at 1:10. Port Adelaide and St Kilda. Can Ross go back to Adelaide after that drubbing against Adelaide in the first round and make amends? And then Freo and the Western Bulldogs over at Optus Stadium, which shapes as probably a bit of a defining game for both teams there.
Yeah, going to be some good Sunday afternoon football, that is for sure.
All right, well, thank you for joining me, Kate. Thank you guys for watching as well. That's been the round so far for round 4. We'll see you next week.